If you've spent most of your life being the strong one, asking for help can feel downright unnatural. And it's not because we don't need support. It's because somewhere along the way, you learned how to survive without expecting it. We're going to come back to that in a minute. I just want to take a minute to say welcome to anyone who's new here. Welcome, welcome, welcome. This is a space where we explore what it means to navigate midlife and begin again. All right, so let's jump back in. So if you had a chance to watch the previous video I did last week where I talked about putting down the cape, this, I guess you could say, is considered a part 2 to that, because today I'm talking about how being the strong one, how it all kind of starts for us, and some of the characteristics of being the strong one. And then I'm also going to kind of break down what it could possibly look like if we start to imagine life without always being the strong one. So let's get into it. So I want to talk about how, first of all, how we even get here. How do we even come to adopt the strong woman identity? I think I mentioned in the last video I did that, I feel like my glasses are crooked. I mentioned that for me it was mostly through observation, just me observing my mom, my grandmas and my aunties, just always being there for everybody, making sure everybody had what they needed, never saying no, always being available, always being dependable, yada, yada, yada. And even in my, even as a little girl, I observed that even though they seemed like they were on top of everything, I could see that at the end of the day, these women were tired. And when I say tired, I'm talking about that bone-weary tired that no amount of sleep is going to cure. You could sleep for 9, 10, 12 hours and you're still tired. That kind of tired. But yet, that's who they were. They were there for everybody. And I want to talk about how it kind of shows up. So one of the ways I feel like it shows up is you feel like you have to solve all the problems. Even if there is help available, eventually you may accept it, but initially, and I'm speaking for myself, I would always try to make sure that I exhausted every avenue in terms of how I went about trying to solve the problem. And I think it was because I didn't want to appear weak. I didn't want to feel like I was burdening anyone else. And then, I'd heard my dad say a number of times, people have their own problems. You don't want to add to people's problems. Yeah. And so I just internalized that anything that I needed to do, even if I could get help for it, I had to figure out how to do it on my own first. And if and only then, if I could not figure it out, then I would go ask for help, right? And over time, what started to happen, and I think what starts to happen with a lot of us, is strength. It doesn't just become it's not part of, or it's not something you do. It becomes a part of who you are. It becomes your identity, right? And when support is offered to you, it starts to feel foreign. It starts to feel unnatural, right? I want to talk about, I just thought of something, y'all. Walk with me through this. This is gonna get interesting. It just dawned on me why I feel like I was so grounded in being the strong one and just making sure that I was the person that other people could rely upon, not wanting to feel like a burden, suppressing when I was overwhelmed. Y'all stick with me. I'm just kind of like figuring this out in real time. I think part of the reason why I always wanted to make sure that I was the dependable one, it had a lot to do with my need to be a people pleaser. Oh yeah. Yes, that was me, and it's still me to some degree. I'm working on it, but yes, now that I think about it, it makes a lot of sense. As a people pleaser, I wanted to make sure I never let anyone down, because in a sense it was like I was letting myself down. Ooh, wait a minute, there's another piece to this. Wrapped up in all of this was a little bit of codependency, because I had to make sure that the people in my life were good, because if they weren't okay, guess who else wasn't okay? Me. So I had to make sure that everybody was okay. Ooh, y'all, this is deep. Let's talk about the next layer of this, of why it's so hard to ask for help. I think, again, we don't want to burden other people with what we feel are our problems. And I talked about, I think, not wanting to feel or be seen as weak. Here's another one that I just thought of. Because we've been making sure that we're standing in the gap for everyone else, and that we are taking on everything for everybody. When people have tried to be there for us, we dismissed it. But and I'm speaking for me right now, if I'm being really honest, I never really gave people really many opportunities to show up for me in the way that they wanted to show up for me. So who am I to, how can I say I don't trust people to show up for me when I haven't given people a chance to show up for me? Isn't that crazy? It's a lot to work through, y'all, a lot to work through. So here's where I'm at right now in my life. What I'm trying to do now is I'm trying to kind of flip it, because carrying all of this weight on my shoulders has been a lot. And I'm tired, and I don't want to be that person anymore. I want some peace in my life, right? So now I'm in this phase of my life where I'm learning how to ask for support. and it feels so strange. But I also am mindful. I understand that it's like a muscle, because it's not something that I've ever really been taught. So I'm having to teach myself how to be open and vulnerable to receive support, and learning that it's not a sign of weakness. It doesn't take anything away from me as a woman. But if I'm being really honest with myself, this is something that is long overdue. And I know that going forward, it's going to be kind of like this balancing act where I'm going to, come off as super independent, the strong woman. And then at other times I'm going to, be, a little bit too vulnerable. But that's okay, because over time I'm going to tweak it, and I'm going to find that balance. But I'm not giving up, because this is, like I said, something I've been needing to do, because this is how I get to the peace that I've been craving for some time now. Oh, that was a lot. And I, in real time, discovered some things about myself that I'm sharing with y'all. Okay. I think we're gonna start to kind of wrap it up here. And if y'all are still with me, if you've made it up to this point, I would love it if you could go ahead and drop a purple heart in the comments to let me know that you're still rocking with me. It would mean a lot. Let's see. I feel like there was something else, and this is why I need to have notes so I don't get lost, because I can ramble, y'all. Okay, there's one other thing I wanted to talk about. How, I was talking about how I'm learning to ask for help. I think this is another way, when I'm looking at it, how I know that I'm heading in the right direction. When I get to the point where I can start telling the truth about how I'm feeling, and not feeling like, I'm bearing too much, I know I'm starting to heal. When I can allow someone to listen without feeling the need to, I was going somewhere with this. When I can allow someone to listen to what I'm saying, and being open to them offering solutions, I know I'm healing. And I think the last thing is just letting myself be seen as a person who's flawed and is working on herself. Yeah. Whew. All right, y'all. I'm kind of tired. All right. So, ladies, if you've been the strong one for a long time, I want you to know, first and foremost, you're not alone. I want you to know that you are worthy of support too, love. You are. And I need you to start telling yourself that, and really meaning it, because you deserve support. You deserve peace. You deserve to finally put the cape down, but it's going to be a step-by-step process. It's not going to happen overnight. And with that being said, y'all continue leaning into the woman that you are becoming. And I'll see you next time. Love y'all. Peace.